Hey everybody, it's Gene with Monitoring Tool Reviews, where I personally test each and every monitoring product I can get my hands on, give it a review to help you figure out if it's something you want to look more into for your organization's monitoring needs. And today, I'm going to be looking at New Relic APM, the alerts feature. So let's get into the review. In this series of videos, I'm reviewing New Relic APM. If you haven't seen any of the other videos, check them out in the link below. So in this video, I'm going to cover the alerts feature. If you're not familiar at all with New Relic, you should definitely check out the first video. I go into a little bit more detail on that one. But right now, I'm going to just say that New Relic APM is an agent-based monitoring solution. You install and configure the software agent wherever your application runs, and it collects a bunch of metrics for the resources your application is using up. And about every minute or so, it sends this collected data back to New Relic servers so you can analyze and report on them. What the alerts feature does is it lets you create both static and dynamic alerts for different metrics thresholds you want to set. I want you to see what the process is like and give you my thoughts on how things went. So let's go. Okay, so to get started with creating alerts, first you need to have at least the essentials plan. Alerts are unfortunately not part of the light plan. So you click on the alerts button in the upper right hand corner. Now, I don't know why it's so far to the right though. It's almost as if they don't want you to set up alerts. But anyway, you end up on the incidents page when you do, and from there you have to go to the alert policies page to create a policy. And once you have a policy created, you're able to create and add conditions to that policy. Now, for me, I don't like having to create a policy first and then a condition, especially when I have to do it over multiple screens that you have to do with New Relic APM. I think they should have you create a policy and an alert condition on one screen. Other tools have done it, so I'm not sure why they didn't. I think it might have something to do with the incident preference grouping that they have, but I'm not sure. Now, if I want to get notified when the alert triggers, I have to add a notification channel. I can't add that notification channel to my policy until I've enabled it in the notification channels area. Something else that doesn't make sense to me. I should be able to do all of that on one screen, but that's not the case here. I don't fully get it. So, once I have my policy with a certain number of conditions and my notification channels tied to that policy, I simply wait for any of my conditions to get triggered. In my case, I set up an email, so here's the email that I got when one of my conditions were met. Now, let's talk about three things that I like and three things that I didn't like when I was using the alerts feature of New Relic APM. Let's get started with the good things, the things that I like. So, the first one is the notification channel options. New Relic gives me a bunch of options here. I get email, HipChat, Slack, and a bunch of others. You want to have as much flexibility here because you may want to send an email or you have a group chat app that your company uses. With alerts, you have lots of options to keep everybody on your team on the same page or at least try to. Now, I'm kind of surprised that I didn't see something like ServiceNow since they're one of the big ones, but you still have a lot of other options. And if you need to, you can probably always use a webhook anyway. The second one is charts when creating thresholds. If you're new to an app or it's a relatively new app that you've recently started monitoring, you may not have the background about the app's performance to properly determine a good alert threshold. So having a chart as you're creating the threshold to give you a sense of how the app has performed in the past can help with choosing a threshold based on past behavior. Dynamic thresholds should identify this for you, but with static thresholds, it helps to have some data to go off of. Obviously, with alerts on something that is either working or not working, it's a no brainer. That's binary. But this chart is useful when you're creating static alerts and it's not black and white. And the last good one I wanted to bring up here is capping errors. It looks like as errors are generated, I get an alert. But if I'm not able to go in and stop that error, New Relic could negatively impact my app if it's collecting and storing all of this error data. So they seem to cap the error at about 100 events. My sense is that they ran into some issues in the past with the agent affecting an app because of the errors that were generated. So I like how they cap it. Okay, so that's the good stuff. Now let's get on to the bad stuff. First, static alerts are not free. To me, this should be a basic capability of all monitoring tools. These days, dynamic alerts are what you need to manage complex apps. Static alerts have long ago not cut it. They tend to only be useful when you want an alert on something that's binary. Either it is or it isn't. And that's fine. To me, if you're going to offer the product for free, like New Relic has with their light plan, you should at least throw in five or so static alerts so I can get a feel for how the alerting works in your product. So I'm not a fan of making me pay for static alerts. Dynamic alerts I definitely get, but I think static alerts I should get at least something to kind of get a sense of how it all works. Second were bugs. I think I ran into more than a couple bugs that didn't make any sense to me, especially for SaaS monitoring tool. I wasn't getting any alert emails, even though errors were clearly getting triggered. I was able to see in Blaze Meter as I was running my test that errors were being generated, but still, I wasn't getting any emails. So New Relic is telling me errors are being generated. Blaze Meter is telling me errors are being generated, but I'm still not seeing any errors. I had to run a test again, and then the emails came in much, much later. I also got an error about an access token that I saw no other references to. To me, if the monitoring tool is installed on my infrastructure, there could be some reasons for bugs because of some unsupported feature, some unsupported capability, or something like that. But when it's on your infrastructure, I expect that you thoroughly tested it, but something was wrong here with New Relic. I think the issue went away later, but there's no way for me to see what happened. I'm not exactly clear on why I was getting all of those bugs. Third and last is alert granularity. The minimum time needed for an event can be triggered is 5 minutes. To me, if you're collecting data every minute, as New Relic is, you should be able to let me know if something bad happens, say, for 2 minutes, especially if I have all of that history. With the complexity of apps and stuff like serverless, 5 minutes is just not granular enough for me. So, for my overall rating, I give the New Relic APM alerts feature a 6 out of 10. There were some good things, but those bugs are bad first impression to a user, especially since I'm using it on the infrastructure that they provide to me. So there you have it. That's my review of the New Relic APM alerts feature. Tune in next time for another monitoring tool review.